The series begins with a young woman named Hyun-jin, a hardworking girl who earns a living doing delivery jobs, and a young man named Tae-hyung, a photographer. Both of them carry big dreams in their hearts, hoping that one day their lives will change for the better. Hyun-jin has applied for a new job, one completely different from delivery work. She dreams of becoming a chef. Tae-hyung, on the other hand, longs for the day he can afford his own private apartment, a place he can decorate and furnish exactly the way he wants. But in a single moment, all their hopes begin to shift when a little boy named Wuju unexpectedly enters their lives. Who is this child? And why does he suddenly become part of their story? To find out, we dive into the events of the drama. We first see our heroine leaving her delivery job as rain begins to pour. Instead of running from it, she decides to take advantage of the supermarket discounts happening because of the storm. Inside the store, she runs into her younger sister, Hyun-ju. The two happily shop together and later sit down to enjoy their favorite foods. While they are eating, Hyun-jin suddenly notices a ring inside her sister's bag, a proposal ring. It turns out that it was given to Hyun-ju by Woo-jin, a man who intends to marry her. Later, Hyun-jin meets Woo-jin and asks him directly about it. He confirms that it's true. He wants to marry her sister. Hyun-jin tells him she approves and even suggests that both families meet that very evening. She asks him to bring his siblings as well. Meanwhile, we see Tae-hyung at a club, drinking heavily while girls he previously photographed praise his skills, yet also gossip about him behind his back. The next morning, Tae-hyung wakes up with regret, remembering how much he drank and how much money he wasted. As the engagement day approaches, Hyun-jin notices her sister admiring a beautiful designer lamp in a photo. Even though it's expensive, she decides she wants to buy it as a gift for her. Her best friend, Se-yeon, comes to visit and asks why she seems troubled. Hyun-jin shows her the picture of the costly lamp and says she needs to find someone reselling it at a cheaper price. At the same time, Tae-hyung, stressed about the money he wasted, is advised by his friends to sell some of his belongings, so he lists 2 lamps online for sale. Hyun-jin and Se-yeon discover that someone is selling the exact lamp she wants. She contacts the seller and arranges to meet him. When they finally meet, Hyun-jin asks him to lower the price since the lamp is slightly used. She explains that she doesn't have family support and that she raised her sister herself. She wants to give the lamp as a meaningful engagement gift, but Tae-hyung refuses to reduce the price. She then insists on taking the lamp apart to inspect it properly. The situation quickly escalates. They argue loudly inside a restaurant, drawing attention. In the chaos, the lamp falls and shatters. The restaurant staff ask them to leave. Hyun-jin refuses to pay for the broken lamp, arguing it was already faulty, but in her frustration, she forgets her phone behind. When Tae-hyung gets home, he realizes he still has her phone. Soon she calls it and asks him to return it urgently because the next day is her sister's family introduction ceremony before the wedding. While holding her phone, Tae-hyung notices the wallpaper photo. It's Woo-jin and Hyun-ju dressed like a bride and groom. The moment he sees Woo-jin's face, he freezes. He recognizes him. Woo-jin is his older brother, the one who abandoned him when he was young and left him alone. At the family meeting, Tae-hyung arrives to return Hyun-jin's phone. He sits at the table and suddenly calls out to Woo-jin, "Brother?" Everyone is shocked. They don't understand what he means, but Tae-hyung calmly explains that Woo-jin is indeed his older brother, though they haven't seen each other in years. Then Hyun-jin's sister asks what Tae-hyung does for a living. He answers simply, "I'm a photographer." And after that, he quietly leaves. Tae-hyung runs after his older brother Woo-jin, but Woo-jin stops him. Tae-hyung, overwhelmed with anger, tells him that he waited for him for years, that he was abandoned and left alone with no one by his side. And now? Now he's done waiting. This time, he is the one walking away. When Tae-hyung returns home, he opens a small box filled with childhood memories, an old camera his brother once gave him, along with photographs from their youth. After staring at them for a long moment, he makes a painful decision. He throws them into the trash. Memories flood back to him, the night his brother left him. It was raining heavily. Woo-jin had promised he would return, but he never did. The wedding day finally arrives, the wedding of Hyun-ju and Woo-jin. Hyun-jin notices that Tae-hyung does not attend his brother's wedding. Time passes. 3 years later, Hyun-jin is now working a new job. Tae-hyung has finally achieved part of his dream. He owns his own apartment. It's old and worn down, but it's his. He plans to renovate and decorate it the way he always wanted, but misfortune strikes. Hyunjin suddenly loses her job. Heartbroken and anxious about how to tell her sister, she returns home. Her sister has prepared food for her. Gently, she tells Hyunjin that she should quit exhausting herself with endless work and instead move back home to rest and live comfortably. Hyunjin then discovers that her sister has prepared a room for her, hoping they can live together again. But Hyunjin becomes angry. She wants to build her own life independently. She doesn't want to rely on her sister forever. Overcome with emotion, she shouts at her sister and storms out of the house. Meanwhile, Woo-jin is at the police station. He is now a police chief. It is his wedding anniversary, and he plans to take time off work to spend the day with his family. But suddenly, he receives an urgent message regarding their father. He tries calling Tae-hyung, but Tae-hyung doesn't answer. Woo-jin and his wife get into the car. Hyunju is typing apology messages to her sister, still feeling guilty about their earlier argument. Then, tragedy strikes. A large truck crashes into their car at full speed. Hyunjin and Tae-hyung both receive devastating phone calls. Their siblings are dead. They rush to the scene. Hyunjin cries uncontrollably, remembering their childhood together. Tae-hyung remains silent, replaying the last harsh words he said to his brother. At the funeral hall, Hyunjin is overwhelmed with grief. She blames herself for shouting at her sister. Then Tae-hyung arrives. Suddenly, from one of the rooms, a small child walks out, the son of Hyunju and Woo-jin. He survived the accident. The little boy begins crying, calling out softly, "Mama!" Hyunjin picks him up and tries to comfort him, but the boy wriggles free and runs toward Tae-hyung. Hyunjin rushes to catch him, but accidentally bumps into a nearby tree and injures herself. Woo-jin's colleagues from the police station arrive to offer condolences to Tae-hyung. Later, Tae-hyung is asked how his brother should be buried. What kind of funeral arrangements should be made? Torn between emotions, he tells them to choose whatever they think is best. The little boy keeps following Tae-hyung around, clinging to him and bothering him. Annoyed, Tae-hyung gives him chocolate to distract him, but the child isn't satisfied. "Carry me," he says. Reluctantly, Tae-hyung lifts him, and suddenly, the boy throws up all over his clothes. Frustrated, Tae-hyung rushes to the bathroom to wash himself. The mischievous little boy runs inside after him, even pulling at the bathroom door. When Tae-hyung steps out, he sees Hyunjin with her arm wrapped in a bandage. She tries to carry the child but is too weak to lift him. While they are still at the funeral, Hyunjin's best friend arrives and hugs her tightly, crying as she offers her condolences. Later, Hyunjin plays gently with the little boy as the funeral guests slowly leave and night falls. The next morning, a man from the court arrives. He asks who will take legal responsibility for the child. Tae-hyung immediately refuses. He says clearly that he is only responsible for himself. But Hyunjin steps forward. She declares that she will take responsibility for Wuju. Hyunjin steps outside, struggling to carry her belongings. Tae-hyung sees her and silently helps, loading her things into the car. Before leaving, he tells her firmly that he doesn't want to see her again. And then he drives away. Hyunjin carries little Wuju in her arms and returns to her sister's house. The child begins crying loudly, calling out, "Mama!" She doesn't know what to do. As she walks through the house, memories surround her, moments she shared with her sister. She finds a handwritten letter her sister left behind. It reads, "I'm sorry, Hyunjin." She also sees the apology messages her sister had sent her. At that very moment, another notification appears on her phone, a message from the company she had applied to. She has passed the first stage and been invited to an interview. Overwhelmed, Hyunjin breaks down in tears, regretting how harshly she had spoken to her sister. As she sobs alone, little Wuju walks toward her, still crying. He buries himself in her chest, and the two cry together. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung meets his friend, and they drink together. He tells him that his brother has died and left behind a child. Coldly, he admits that he doesn't feel as devastated as he expected. After all, his brother had already abandoned him long before his death. But one thing keeps troubling him. He was the last person Woo-jin tried to call. Tae-hyung keeps wondering why. The next morning, Hyunjin prepares breakfast for Wuju. She doesn't know what babies are supposed to eat, so she searches online for guidance. But the child refuses the food she makes. Exhausted and overwhelmed, she suddenly hears a knock. It's her best friend, Se-yeon. She is shocked at the state of the house and at how tired Hyunjin looks. Se-yeon steps in to help. She washes Hyunjin's hair and helps take care of Wuju. Hyunjin then confesses that she's worried about who will look after the child on the day of her interview. Se-yeon reassures her. She says she will request a day off from work and watch the baby herself. Hyunjin feels relieved and happy. Later, the three of them sit together in the living room. Wuju, exhausted, eventually falls asleep. On the other side, Tae-hyung brings workers to his old apartment. He tells them he wants it renovated and modernized. The contractor warns him that the apartment is very old and will require a lot of work, but Tae-hyung insists he's willing to pay whatever it takes. Elsewhere, Chef Young-seong is preparing a meal for important VIP guests. He is a manager at BS Food, the very company Hyunjin applied to. When the job applications are brought to him, he flips through the files and suddenly pauses when he sees Hyunjin's application. A soft smile appears on his face. It's clear he already knows her and perhaps even has a quiet crush on her. The day of Hyunjin's interview finally arrives. She busies herself getting ready. At the same time, Tae-hyung is designing ideas for his renovated apartment. Just as Hyunjin finishes preparing and is feeding Wuju, her phone rings. It's Si-yeon. Her voice is apologetic. Her manager refused to grant her leave and assigned her work. She can't come. Panic sets in. Hyunjin tries asking the mothers in her neighborhood to watch the child, but they all refuse. She calls her friends one by one. Each of them makes an excuse. Desperate, she sends a message to Tae-hyung. If you don't come urgently, I'll give up raising this child. He arrives. She pleads with him. Just 3 hours. Please watch him for 3 hours. You're his uncle, and he clearly likes you. He refuses. Her voice trembles as she continues. I'm injured because of your sister-in-law. My hand still hurts. I can't even carry him properly. If I miss today's interview, what kind of future will Wuju have? Tears stream down her face. She leaves, saying, take good care of him and don't give him chocolate. Tae-hyung looks around the house. He sees photographs of his brother and sister-in-law. Then Wuju walks up to him and says softly, carry me. Tae-hyung hesitates, but then lifts him into his arms, and slowly he carries the child with him to his own apartment. When Tae-hyung brings the child to his apartment, Wuju immediately begins crying. Tae-hyung opens the fridge, searching for something suitable to feed him, but there's nothing a child can eat. Frustrated, he orders burgers and fries instead and starts feeding them to the little boy. While Wuju is eating, Tae-hyung steps away and calls the construction workers renovating his apartment. Meanwhile, Hyunjin attends her interview. She passionately explains how she fell in love with cooking from a young age and how she can introduce creative new dishes to the company. Back at the apartment, chaos erupts. While Tae-hyung isn't paying attention, Wuju smears ketchup everywhere. On the floor, the furniture, even on Tae-hyung's bed and belongings. The entire place becomes a disaster zone. Tae-hyung shouts in frustration so loudly that neighbors come out to see what's happening. He picks up the child and tries to call Hyunjin, but Wuju grabs the phone and throws it. The phone flies out and is crushed by a passing car on the street below. Enraged, Tae-hyung takes Wuju to the company where Hyunjin is interviewing. Out of spite, he lets the child run loose, mixing up food displays and making a mess everywhere. If I'm suffering, I won't suffer alone, he mutters. Hyunjin is horrified. She tries to scold him as Wuju continues ruining the food display area. In the middle of their argument, the child wanders toward a decorative water fountain. Suddenly, he slips in. Without hesitation, Hyunjin jumps into the water and pulls him out. After that incident, the two of them part ways again. She takes Wuju home and gives him a bath. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung returns to his apartment feeling relieved, finally free from the troublesome child. The next morning, the construction workers call him with bad news. The apartment's plumbing has collapsed, and renovation can't continue. On top of that, all his belongings are delivered to the apartment. He had already moved out of his previous place. He tries to rent another apartment, but nothing is available. Then an idea strikes him. He loads all his belongings and shows up at Hyunjin's house. Surprised, she asks him what he wants. He replies calmly, "Didn't you say I'm Wuju's uncle? And since you and I can't seem to separate from him, I'm here." She protests, saying they can't live together under the same roof. He responds, "Fine, then pay me back for the money I lost because of your child, my broken phone and the damages. Altogether, it's 5.6 million won." She argues, "We're a man and a woman, how can we live together?" He smirks and says, "I'm not asking you. The house belongs to Wuju. Let's ask him." He walks over to the child and asks, "Do you allow me to live here?" Wuju nods his head. "There," he agreed. And just like that, Tae-hyung starts organizing and fixing the house. The next morning, Hyun-jin wakes up to a completely cleaned house. Breakfast is prepared. Wuju has been bathed and dressed. Even his meal is ready. When she enters the bathroom, she notices Tae-hyung has placed his belongings everywhere, marking his presence throughout the house. After feeding Wuju breakfast, Tae-hyung takes him outside to play. Hyun-jin watches in surprise and a little happiness. Then her phone buzzes. She has officially been hired by BS Food. Tae-hyung congratulates her and says, "Go out and celebrate with your friends. Buy yourself work clothes. I'll watch the kid." She meets her friend and tells her that Tae-hyung is now living in the house. Her friend says it's not strange as long as nothing romantic is happening between them. They're simply housemates. Hyun-jin also explains that daycare centers are too expensive and she can't afford them. When she returns home, she tells Tae-hyung she agrees to let him stay, but only for 1 month. During that month, they will split all responsibilities equally. They sign a 50-50 agreement. And just like that, their chaotic co-living life begins. Hyung insists on taking the brighter room. Hyun-jin firmly tells him that although he may sleep there, he is not allowed to touch anything inside it. Tae-hyung refuses to back down. He argues that all of his belongings are in that room, and no one except him is allowed to enter it, and if anyone does, they must knock first. With that, he walks away, still stubborn. Later, they exchange phone numbers and save each other's contacts in a rather sarcastic way. Tae-hyung saves her number as temporary house, while Hyun-jin saves his as temporary assistant. That night, Tae-hyung talks to himself in his room, reassuring himself that his precious belongings are safe. "In 1 month, I'll leave this place anyway," he mutters. Meanwhile, in her own room, Hyun-jin also talks to herself. "In 1 month, that man will move out," she says confidently, but then she suddenly knocks on his door and asks bluntly, "Tell me the truth, aren't you going to move out after 1 month?" Tae-hyung looks confused and slightly annoyed. "I don't even want to see you after a month," he replies. "Lower your voice." As he tries to close the door, she quickly adds that he must take care of Wuju while she is at work. The next day, Tae-hyung asks his boss for a 1-month leave so he can look after Wuju. His boss is reluctant at first, but Tae-hyung tries hard to convince him. Finally, the boss agrees, on one condition: Tae-hyung must accompany him to a hotel and take photographs for him. Although Tae-hyung dislikes the idea, especially since he has grown to hate photography and cameras, he accepts the deal. The boss gathers the cameras and tells him, "I know you don't like photography anymore, but help me this once, and I'll give you the month off." Tae-hyung agrees, though it clearly troubles him. Soon, he is seen arranging items at the hotel and taking pictures professionally. Meanwhile, we meet Amy, a famous photographer. Her colleague tries to wake her up and hands her a cup of coffee while discussing work matters. Amy, however, says she wants to change locations and requests a different place from where she is currently working. Her colleague steps outside, speaking on the phone, trying to arrange the new location she asked for. While on the call, he overhears a conversation coming from another room and decides to listen more closely. Eventually, he enters the room, startling Tae-hyung. The man asks him, "Are you a photographer?" When Tae-hyung replies yes, the man hands him a business card and says, "I work with Amy, the famous photographer." On the other side, Hyun-jin is carefully preparing a schedule for little Wuju. She writes detailed notes on small pieces of paper, explaining how Tae-hyung should feed him, care for him, and even how to talk to him. She sticks the notes on the wall and organizes the house carefully. Before leaving, she tells Wuju to eat well while she's gone. The child nods obediently. Later, Tae-hyung returns home, still thinking about the business card. There, he meets Amy's director. Surprisingly, the director likes Tae-hyung's photographs and even offers to buy them. Tae-hyung is shocked. The director tells him he could earn a lot of money if he works with Amy. However, Tae-hyung refuses the offer. While they are still talking, Hyun-jin walks in and calls out to him. She hands him a small notebook containing Wuju's schedule. Tae-hyung looks irritated by her overly detailed instructions, but she explains that she only wants Wuju to grow up well. She adds that it would be better if he updates her on everything. Tae-hyung doesn't seem convinced. "It's only 1 month," she insists. "Let's focus on raising Wuju properly and wisely." But as she speaks, Tae-hyung quietly mutters under his breath, "This woman is so troublesome," and walks away. The next morning, Hyun-jin prepares breakfast for Wuju but realizes she is running late for work. She knocks on Tae-hyung's door urgently and tells him to feed the child. Tae-hyung casually replies that she still has time, but she insists that she is already late and will return home in the evening. Annoyed, Tae-hyung complains that he should be paid for this job. Hyun-jin quickly reminds him, "You signed the agreement," and rushes off to work. Left behind, Tae-hyung sighs and begins feeding Wuju. Meanwhile, Hyun-jin is on the bus heading to work. She feels genuinely happy and excited. When she arrives at her workplace, she walks in with bright energy as they begin their first training session. She is clearly thrilled to start this new chapter. On the other side, Tae-hyung is at home tidying up the house. As he cleans, he notices the small notes Hyun-jin stuck on the wall, detailed reminders about how to take care of the child and feed him properly. He scoffs to himself. She acts like she's some kind of expert in raising kids. Still, he takes photos of Wuju and sends them to Hyun-jin so she can stay updated. While sitting in her training session, Hyun-jin sees his message and smiles widely. He sends another photo of Wuju eating and writes, "He's eating well." Throughout the day, Tae-hyung keeps sending updates about everything Wuju does. Each time her phone buzzes, Hyun-jin feels a wave of relief and happiness. Later, Tae-hyung checks the time. It's almost the hour Hyun-jin is supposed to return home. He decides to take a shower and tells little Wuju playfully, "When your aunt gets home, that's when the trouble starts." But while Tae-hyung is showering, the water suddenly turns freezing cold. Shocked, he steps out to check what's wrong and discovers that Hyun-jin has just arrived. She freezes in embarrassment when she sees him standing there with shampoo still in his hair. Together they try to fix the problem with the water heater, but Tae-hyung doesn't seem to know what he's doing. Hyun-jin raises an eyebrow and says, "Weren't you the one who claimed you knew how to fix this? Why can't you do it now?" Tae-hyung defends himself, saying he used to live in modern houses where everything was high-tech. "This house is old," he argues. After a long debate, they call a repair service. When they hear the expensive fee, Tae-hyung quickly tells her to hang up, but Hyun-jin looks worried. "Wuju hasn't taken a bath yet. What are we supposed to do?" "That's up to you," Tae-hyung replies casually before walking away. Determined, Hyun-jin searches for a bucket so she can heat water manually for Wuju's bath. While she warms the water, Tae-hyung holds the child. Then the two of them carefully begin bathing him. Wuju fusses and squirms, making it difficult, but they manage to continue. By the time they finish, both of them are completely exhausted. Hyun-jin still wants Tae-hyung to hold the baby, but he looks at her and says, "Don't you feel embarrassed? Look at the time." As they continue arguing, they suddenly notice Wuju has splashed himself into water again. Both of them rush toward him and quickly dry him off. The next morning, when Hyun-jin leaves for work, Tae-hyung sends her Wuju's picture as usual. Meanwhile, at the office, Hyun-jin prepares herself for the day when a man approaches her carrying a stack of files. "You need to read all of these to understand the company's work," he tells her. Calmly, she replies that she has already read everything. The man looks surprised. "Are you that girl?" he asks. "I don't understand," she says. "You're the girl from the interview day, the one with the troublesome child and the man who was with you. You're even wearing the same outfit from that video." Hyun-jin's face turns pale with shock. She quickly goes to her friend, but her friend only makes it worse. "Is that you in this video?" she asks. Apparently, many co-workers have already watched it, and they constantly talk about it. Hyun-jin feels deeply embarrassed, but her friend tries to comfort her. "Your face isn't shown clearly. It's normal. The camera focused more on the man." Clenching her fists, Hyun-jin mutters, "I really hate that man. He always causes trouble for me." Elsewhere, Tae-hyung is still trying to fix the water heater. He calls someone on the phone and says, "There's no hot water to bathe the child today." The person advises him to look for different equipment. Just then, a neighbor comes by. Tae-hyung explains the problem, and the neighbor starts helping. However, the neighbor begins boasting, "I'm someone who's good at everything. Everyone knows me." Tae-hyung smirks and replies, "If you're that capable, why are you home? Shouldn't you be working?" The neighbor fires back, "And why are you at home instead of going to work?" Tae-hyung answers calmly, "I'm staying home to take care of the child." The neighbor narrows his eyes suspiciously. "Where's the girl who used to take care of him? Are you in a relationship with her?" Tae-hyung quickly denies it. "No, we're just raising the child together, pretending to be a couple." The neighbor looks at him in disbelief, clearly shocked by the answer. Meanwhile, Hyun-jin is standing inside the elevator, looking completely exhausted. In front of her stands a man holding a briefcase. When she arrives at the office, she's told that the new manager has arrived. The moment she sees him, her heart skips. She recognizes him. Surprised, she listens as he introduces himself. His name is Yoon Seong, and he is the new manager of the company. Suddenly, memories flood back. They once attended the same university. Back then, when they were still students, he had confessed his feelings and even proposed to her, but she had rejected him. Now, as she continues working, her eyes accidentally meet his. She immediately lowers her gaze, feeling shy and uncomfortable. At the same time, Tae-hyung and the neighbor are still trying to fix the broken water heater. Suddenly, the electricity sparks violently. Both of them panic. Tae-hyung quickly tries to put out the small fire, while the neighbor runs away without hesitation. Later that evening, Hyunjin leaves work very late, looking drained. She sits on the bus and sends Tae-hyung a message apologizing for coming home late. In her heart, she tells herself, "When I get home, I must take a shower." But when she arrives, she discovers the water heater is still not working. Tae-hyung pretends as if nothing happened. "I don't know what went wrong," he says casually. She suggests they contact the landlord to fix it. Meanwhile, little Wuju is playing happily, unaware of the tension around him. Hyunjin calls the landlord, but no one answers. Tae-hyung tells her to just wait. Instead, she writes a message explaining that the water heater is broken. Tae-hyung snatches the phone from her and says, "Talk to them firmly. Don't sound childish." Hyunjin replies calmly, "Respect is important. We should speak politely." But Tae-hyung starts typing aggressively. "Why aren't you answering my wife's calls?" Hyunjin gasps and grabs the phone back. "Why are you lying? Are we even married?" she demands. "What's the problem if I say we're married?" he argues back. The two of them start bickering loudly. Suddenly, the landlord replies to the message. Hyunjin freezes, unsure what to do next. Meanwhile, Wuju continues splashing around playfully, oblivious to the chaos. In the middle of the argument, Hyunjin bursts out, "Because of you, my entire normal life is ruined." Tae-hyung snaps back, "I'm exhausted from taking care of the child all day." Later, Hyunjin checks her workplace group chat, and her heart sinks. They are all gossiping about the interview video. Someone even shared the clip in the group. Her hands tremble as she shows Tae-hyung the screen. "You've destroyed my life," she cries. "You embarrassed me." Tae-hyung shrugs. "Your face isn't even shown clearly." But she keeps shouting. "You humiliated me. I wanted people to see me properly, to respect me." "Who exactly are you afraid of?" he asks. With tears in her eyes, she finally confesses that the manager, Yoon Seong, is her former classmate and her first love. She doesn't want him to see the video and think badly of her. Tae-hyung frowns. "I don't understand what you're saying. Are you scared? Now you're making me feel nervous." But she continues crying. The next morning, Hyunjin takes a shower with freezing cold water again. She shivers violently but endures it. Afterward, she prepares breakfast for Wuju. Tae-hyung asks, "Why didn't you just heat the water somehow?" "It's not important," she replies, coughing slightly before heading to work. Tae-hyung watches her leave, puzzled, as he feeds Wuju. That night, Hyunjin looks at old photos of herself and Yoon Seong from their university days. She smiles softly at the memories, but she is still coughing. The water heater remains unfixed, and every day she bathes in cold water. Tae-hyung finally says, "We have to fix that heater." The next day at work, Hyunjin overhears employees saying that the manager won't come tomorrow because he's leaving for a business trip. She feels relieved. The following morning, she goes to work without putting on perfume. Normally, she would wear it because of him, but today she doesn't bother. As she leaves the house, little Wuju wrinkles his nose at her scent. However, when she arrives at the office, she is shocked to see Yoon Seong there after all. Embarrassment washes over her face. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung struggles while washing Wuju's clothes. "It's not easy taking care of a child all day," he mutters. Suddenly, he notices that even he smells unpleasant. "I need a shower," he says. But then he remembers how Hyunjin was coughing after bathing in cold water. His expression changes. He takes out the business card the director had given him. Leaving Wuju with a trusted friend, Tae-hyung goes to meet the director and agrees to the collaboration offer. The director warns him, "Act calm. Amy is very arrogant." Tae-hyung nods and begins working as a photographer. Soon after, the famous photographer Amy arrives. Everyone greets her respectfully. Tae-hyung informs her that all the lights have been adjusted and everything is ready. Amy looks at him sharply. "And who are you?" she asks. "I'm the photographer," Tae-hyung replies confidently. Amy looks at Taehyung coldly and says, "I don't need an assistant. You can leave." But Taehyung doesn't walk away. He calmly tries to persuade her. At that moment, a model storms in angrily, shouting at Amy. "You photographed me badly! You ruined my image!" she yells before turning to leave in frustration. Amy, completely unfazed and full of pride, replies sharply, "I don't work with people who don't trust me. I don't care what you've heard from others, but if you don't trust my camera, you're free to go." Taehyung watches everything carefully, surprised by Amy's arrogance. Soon, Amy begins taking photos again. Taehyung quietly adjusts the lighting to improve the shot, but she immediately stops and snaps at him. "Who told you to touch that?" They begin arguing. Taehyung explains, "I was only correcting the camera settings." Amy stares at him with a proud, challenging expression. Meanwhile, Hyunjin is in a meeting with the manager and other employees. They are discussing ways to improve and grow the company, but Hyunjin feels extremely self-conscious because she is sitting directly across from her first love. Despite her nervousness, she gathers the courage to share her ideas. Yoon-seong watches her attentively. After the meeting ends, she continues working, though she starts coughing repeatedly. Elsewhere, Taehyung's friends ask him about his experience working with Amy. "It was only for one day," he says casually. They stare at him in disbelief. "How could you give up that chance? You used to admire her when you were younger." "It's fine. That's enough for me," he replies. But his friends still try to convince him to return to photography seriously. Taehyung shakes his head. "I only needed money to replace the water heater. That's it." At home, little Wuju continues playing happily, completely unaware of the tension surrounding the adults. Back at work, Hyunjin is working non-stop. The manager eventually tells her, "You should go home now." They enter the elevator together. She keeps coughing. "I'll drive you home," Yoon-seong offers gently. She hesitates, feeling awkward and nervous. Meanwhile, the water heater at home has finally been repaired. Taehyung pays the technician and starts cleaning the house. Suddenly, he sees Wuju playing with his camera among scattered items on the floor. The sight triggers a painful memory, his fight with his brother, when his camera and photographs were thrown away like trash. His expression darkens. Later, Yoon-seong drops Hyunjin off at home. He looks around and asks, "When did you move here?" "Several months ago," she replies nervously. "It's been 7 years since we last saw each other," he says softly. They begin talking. Hyunjin admits, "I never thought we'd meet again. I assumed you forgot about me because it felt like you acted as if we had never known each other." "Were you that angry?" he asks gently. She blushes slightly. He smiles and says, "From now on, let's work well together." Then he leaves. As he drives away, memories resurface. His love for her, the day he proposed, and the moment she rejected him because she planned to study abroad. Hyunjin enters the house and sees Wuju's toys scattered everywhere. She begins picking them up. "Leave it, I'll clean," Taehyung says. He then casually mentions that he took Wuju somewhere earlier that day. Hyunjin immediately becomes upset. "That wasn't part of our agreement. You're not supposed to take him elsewhere." "I left him with my friends," he explains. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demands. He begins explaining his reasons. "Wuju broke my camera. It feels like everything keeps getting worse while we're living together." "Are you saying everything is ruined because of me?" she fires back. Then she adds angrily, "Because of you, people think I'm crazy, because of that video." Their argument grows louder. "I haven't even been bathing properly," she cries, "and he probably thinks I'm crazy too." "Who are you talking about?" Taehyung asks, but she continues shouting. Finally, he says, "I fixed the water heater." Her expression changes instantly. Relief washes over her face. She quickly goes to shower. When she finishes, she feels refreshed and peaceful. She checks on Wuju and sees that he's sleeping. She then joins Taehyung at the table and says, "You should reduce your drinking." Ironically, she brings out a large bottle herself. "This is the kind I like," she says. "You don't even have proper glasses," he teases. They begin drinking together. "I've always loved rainy days," she says softly. "Why? Your clothes just get wet," he replies. She smiles faintly and thanks him sincerely for fixing the shower. "I feel completely fresh now." Then she asks where he got the money. "I own an entire house," he says casually. "I earned that money in one day." "I don't have money right now. Can I pay you with equipment instead?" she asks. "It's fine," he says. "I'll be moving out soon anyway. I don't plan to stay here long." She quickly responds, "I don't want you staying here either." They begin bickering again, each blaming the other for being difficult. Finally, she says firmly, "Let's just stick to the time frame of our agreement." That night, the two of them drink heavily, far more than they should have. Taehyung's phone alarm suddenly rings. Half asleep, he turns it off without opening his eyes. As he shifts slightly, he notices that Hyunjin is lying beside him, but instead of reacting, he closes his eyes again. A moment later, Hyunjin wakes up. She freezes. There he is, lying right next to her. "What are you doing here?" she shouts in shock. Taehyung shoots upright. "Me? What are you doing holding my arm?" He fires back. Both of them stare at each other in disbelief, then begin yelling at the same time. Meanwhile, little Wuju simply watches them and starts giggling, amused by the chaos. They rush toward the table where they had been drinking the night before. Taehyung suddenly notices his lamp sitting there. "Why is my lamp here?" he asks suspiciously. Hyunjin blinks. "When did all this even happen?" Then flashes of memory begin to return. The night before, while drunk, Taehyung had carried the lamp over dramatically. They both remember taking silly photos together. Each memory hits them one by one, and their faces burn with shame. They realize just how reckless they had been. Quickly, they start cleaning up the mess they made, both muttering, "We're never drinking again." They agree they should focus on raising Wuju properly instead. But even while cleaning, they argue about who drank more and who was responsible. Taehyung insists, "You came into my room." Hyunjin grows even more irritated. Wuju watches them like it's a live drama show. "Never again," she says firmly. "Stop talking." Taehyung grabs his lamp and storms back into his room. After that, the house becomes strangely quiet. Hyunjin feeds Wuju, but both adults stay in their separate rooms, lost in their thoughts. They avoid talking to each other. She focuses on work, while Taehyung remains inside his room. Later, Hyunjin meets her friend and confesses, "I slept next to Taehyung last night." Her friend screams so loudly that nearby people stare in shock. Hyunjin quickly tries to calm her down, but her friend gasps, "Do you like him? Are you trying to live together now?" "No," Hyunjin insists, explaining that they were drunk and accidentally fell asleep without realizing it. Her friend teases her playfully. After sleeping next to him, "What if you start falling in love?" Hyunjin becomes flustered and annoyed. On the other hand, Taehyung is playing video games with his friends. They ask, "Where's Wuju?" "He's with his aunt. She's watching him," he replies. His friends grin mischievously. "So how's life living together? Must be comfortable, huh?" Taehyung rolls his eyes, clearly irritated. Then they joke, "You both smell like the same shampoo. Are you showering together?" That comment makes him snap. He angrily leaves. Later, he and Hyunjin meet outside the house. "You go in first, I'll come after," she says. "No, you go," he refuses. But when she insists, he finally enters first. Inside, Hyunjin stands in front of the bathroom mirror, still feeling uneasy about what happened between them. As she turns around after opening a cabinet, she suddenly sees Taehyung standing there, about to enter the bathroom. They both freeze in awkward confusion before quickly walking away in opposite directions. While showering, Taehyung remembers his friend's teasing words. "You both smell like the same shampoo." His expression darkens. Just then, Hyunjin knocks on the door. She needs something. "I'm still showering. Wait," he calls out. Embarrassed, she quietly walks away. Standing in front of the mirror afterward, Taehyung stares at his reflection and mutters to himself, "Why am I nervous around her? Am I going to stay single my whole life?" Suddenly, she knocks again. "Come out quickly!" "Wait," he responds. As he steps out of the bathroom, he notices something of hers lying on the floor. When he exits, he sees her quickly hiding it. He opens the window for fresh air, and she instinctively helps him. For a brief moment, their eyes meet. He looks at her deeply. She blushes and lowers her gaze. Even Wuju seems confused by the strange atmosphere. Taehyung keeps staring at her. She finally asks softly, "What's wrong?" He suddenly snaps out of it and awkwardly fixes his hair. Then he begins adjusting something near the sink. As Hyunjin watches him, she notices the strength in his arms, the defined muscles. She finds herself staring longer than she should. He catches her looking and smirks slightly. "What's wrong?" She immediately looks away, flustered. "Nothing! We just need to fix the water here." Then she turns to Wuju and says, "Right, Wuju." But both of them are clearly distracted, each secretly thinking about the other. Meanwhile, when Hyunjin arrives at work, one of her co-workers approaches her with a curious look. Aren't you the girl from that video that was shared in the group? The one where your child and your husband were causing chaos? Hyunjin immediately panics. I don't even know that girl, she insists loudly. Calm down, they tell her. Don't make it more serious than it is. She quickly adds, I don't even have a husband. I'm single. At that moment, the manager arrives and says, let's gather in the meeting room. Inside, he begins discussing company matters and asks for ideas on how to improve operations. When it's Hyunjin's turn, she hands over her prepared file. The manager reviews it carefully and nods in approval. I like how you organize this project, he says. Come to my office afterward. Later, he signs her file and asks, can you handle this project alone, or do you need assistance? I can manage it by myself, she replies confidently. Elsewhere, Tae-hyung and little Wuju are outside throwing away trash when their neighbor appears. The neighbor tries to avoid them, but Tae-hyung spots him immediately. Do you realize how much trouble you caused me that day? Tae-hyung says. As they argue, the neighbor's mother suddenly shows up and scolds her son loudly. Didn't I tell you not to smoke and throw cigarette butts around? I quit smoking a long time ago, the man protests. But Tae-hyung calmly tells the mother that he saw her son smoking. The neighbor becomes flustered. When we get home, we'll settle this, the mother says sternly. Embarrassed, the neighbor yells at Tae-hyung, why are you exposing me like that? You cost me 1 million won, Tae-hyung replies coolly. The mother overhears and asks, how did he cost you that much money? Tae-hyung explains that the landlords never came to fix the issue and wouldn't answer their calls. It's possible they were busy, she says reasonably. While they're still talking, Hyunjin arrives home and greets them politely. The neighbor suddenly blurts out, you're very beautiful. Tae-hyung quickly tries to silence him, but the man continues, both of you are good-looking together. The mother then smiles warmly, I have plenty of food at home. If you're hungry, come over and eat any time. They politely decline and head back inside. Once inside, Hyunjin turns to Tae-hyung. Why did the neighbor say that? Did you tell him we're a couple? Tae-hyung shrugs. All he said was that you're beautiful, like the child. And it's true. You are beautiful. Before she can respond, her phone rings. It's her manager. Send me the files if you've finished, he says. She starts searching for them, but suddenly Wuju begins crying loudly. She panics. If you're outside, I'll call you later, the manager says. Flustered, she tells her manager, the TV volume is loud, sorry. She pretends the noise is coming from the television. I'll send everything once I'm done, she assures him. All right, he says, and hangs up. Afterward, Tae-hyung asks, why are you so nervous around that coworker? He gave me a good opportunity at work, she explains. I have to make the most of it. Who is he? Tae-hyung asks. She avoids the question, saying instead, I need to prove myself to everyone at work. I need to show them my abilities. Suddenly, she grabs his hand and pleads, please hold Wuju for a while so I can finish the project. Though slightly annoyed, he agrees. She works intensely, preparing everything carefully. Tae-hyung even brings her coffee to help her stay awake. Late at night, he wakes up and notices she is still working. The next morning, he cleans the house and notices a photo of her with her coworkers. She's really beautiful, he murmurs unconsciously. As he continues cleaning, he notices it's raining. He remembers her saying she loves rainy days. Then he sees a small star decoration and recalls the drunken night when she told him why she loves stars. She had once lived in a small apartment with her sister. Rainwater used to leak through the ceiling, and her sister would stick star stickers over the spots where water dripped. That memory made her cherish stars. That night she had told him she regretted the last conversation she ever had with her sister. She always cooked delicious food for me, she had said sadly. I'll never see her again. She had looked heartbroken, and Tae-hyung had quietly comforted her. Now, remembering all that, Tae-hyung decides to cook the food she once said she loved. While she's at work, he prepares her favorite meal and also feeds Wuju dinner, chatting with him playfully. Later, he calls Hyunjin. My meeting just ended, she says. There's a restaurant near the office. I was thinking of grabbing dinner from there. No, Tae-hyung replies firmly. I already cooked dinner. I'll call you back in a little while, Hyunjin says before hanging up, and Tae-hyung stands there silently, thinking. Hyunjin returns to work late at night. It is raining heavily. Tae-hyung takes Wuju to the neighbor's house and says, I'm going to bring his aunt. She left without an umbrella, so I'll go get her from the rain. The neighbors agree to watch the child for a while. Taehyung then sits at the bus stop waiting for Hyunjin. The rain pours down steadily. Just as he is about to leave, he sees Hyunjin stepping out of a car. A man is holding an umbrella over her to shield her from the rain. Taehyung freezes. Hyunjin thanks the man politely. "You're such a kind manager," she says warmly. From a distance, Taehyung watches everything, not knowing what to do. Then he sees the manager leave his umbrella with her before getting back into his car and driving away. At that moment, Hyunjin notices Taehyung standing there, holding two umbrellas, clearly waiting for her. But instead of approaching her, Taehyung turns away angrily. "She wasted my time. She couldn't even tell me someone was driving her home," he mutters to himself as he walks back to the house. When Hyunjin enters, she says softly, "I didn't know you were waiting for me." "You told me you didn't know anyone with an umbrella," he replies bitterly. "But you came home in a car." "He's my manager," she explains. That only makes things worse. They begin shouting at each other. Taehyung storms off. Hyunjin then notices the dinner he had prepared for her. He says coldly, "You're not someone worth waiting for. I told you I hate waiting. You're terrible at keeping promises." She sits down quietly and begins eating the food. It's the same dish her sister used to cook for her, sweet, warm, and comforting. Tears well up in her eyes as she tastes it. Elsewhere, Amy, the famous photographer, is being interviewed about her latest photo shoot. When asked about the recent project, she openly says that a young man named Taehyung helped her. Hyunjin sees the interview. At the same time, Taehyung's friends flood him with messages. "You're famous now. Share some money with us." He is shocked by how quickly things are changing. Later, Hyunjin comes home and congratulates him warmly. She is genuinely happy about his progress. Just then, Amy calls Taehyung. He looks startled. "Bring your camera and come tomorrow," she says shortly before hanging up. Taehyung hesitates. He doesn't want to return to photography. But Hyunjin encourages him. "Go back to photography. You can grow so much. Don't waste your talent." "I already left that life," he says firmly. "I don't want to go back. I even threw away my cameras." "Then where's the camera you received as a birthday gift?" she asks. He quietly brings it out. "It was the first and last gift I ever received," he says. "My brother gave it to me, and he never came back. Every time I take a photo, I remember him." Hyunjin gently tries to comfort him. That night, he lies awake thinking about her words. Finally, he calls her and tells her he has decided to accept the photography job. She is overjoyed. "I'll come home quickly tomorrow, I promise," she says. Meanwhile, Taehyung brings Wuju with him to the shoot because he has no one else to leave him with. Amy notices, "You brought a child?" "I couldn't find anyone to watch him," he explains. She studies him for a moment and says softly, "You've inspired me in many ways. You're a good person." Taehyung takes out his small camera. Amy is surprised by its size. "I threw away my old equipment 3 years ago," he explains. "I quit photography back then." She assigns him a task. Taehyung begins shooting while holding Wuju nearby, but the child becomes restless and starts causing trouble. Taehyung tries to take photos of him playfully, yet Wuju refuses and fusses even more. At the same time, Hyunjin is still at work, collaborating closely with her manager, her former love. Back at the shoot, Taehyung continues working when suddenly Wuju gets hurt. Panicked, Taehyung rushes him to the hospital. At the hospital, they ask for the child's parent or guardian. He immediately tries to call Hyunjin, but she left her phone in the car and doesn't answer. Later, when Hyunjin finishes work and gets into the car, she sees multiple missed calls from Taehyung. She quickly calls back. He answers in a raised voice, telling her they are at the hospital with Wuju. Her heart drops. Without thinking, she runs toward the hospital, asking the nurse frantically which room the little boy is in. Hyunjin rushes into the hospital room. Wuju is lying quietly on the bed, still under anesthesia, his small body motionless. Tears fill her eyes. She turns to Taehyung and apologizes sincerely for everything that happened. But Taehyung, still overwhelmed with fear and anger, snaps at her. "Didn't I tell you I hate waiting?" he shouts. She tries to explain why she was late, but he cuts her off. "You don't even notice what's happening with the child. You're not taking proper care of him." Her expression hardens. "And you are? You don't take proper care of Wuju either." Taehyung exhales sharply. "I told you from the beginning, I can't take care of a child. You're the one who accepted that responsibility. You're supposed to protect him." The argument stops when they both go to speak with the doctor. The doctor reassures them that Wuju's condition is improving. Then he asks about the child's sleep habits. Hyunjin hesitates. I've been busy with work. I'm not sure. But Taehyung answers in detail. He explains that Wuju hasn't been sleeping well lately, that he cries even after short naps and seems restless. The doctor nods seriously. You need to care for him not only physically but emotionally as well. He may be feeling stress. He needs special attention. Those words sink deeply into both of them. They bring Wuju home. Hyunjin gently sits beside him and apologizes for not being there the night before. She strokes his hair softly. I love you, my precious, she whispers. Wuju looks at her and says sweetly, me too. She gives him a drink and stays close to him, watching over him carefully. Meanwhile, Taehyung steps outside alone. The rain has stopped, but the air still feels heavy. He replays the harsh words he said to Hyunjin at the hospital. Regret washes over him. He realizes he spoke too cruelly. Quietly, he goes to a restaurant and buys food for both Wuju and Hyunjin. As he walks home, he looks down at his dirty clothes and sighs, wondering how everything became so messy. A car passes by him. It's the manager's car, but Taehyung doesn't recognize it. When he reaches the house carrying the food, he freezes. Standing at the door is the manager, and inside, Hyunjin looks completely shocked.